No Trump, no wall, no USA at all.
American socialists say, we won't be like that.
When I talk about democratic socialism, I'm not looking at Venezuela. I'm not looking at Cuba. I'm looking at countries like Denmark and Sweden.
They all wind up saying, but the kinder, gentler socialism that we want is Scandinavia.
In Scandinavia, private business is largely left alone. Governments don't even set a minimum wage. Freedom Rankings scores Scandinavian countries high on property rights and business freedom.
And this is really important to know. And again, this is great for the educational purposes. Thank you guys for joining me. John Soto, 683 Talk. This is a major talking point, and you have to be able to cut through it. When they talk about these socialist countries like Denmark, Sweden, all of these nations, a couple of things. One, up until very recently, most of them were extremely homogeneous. They were the same type of people, right? Whether, whatever, if you want to say they were all white, essentially they were all white, but that kind of doesn't really matter. It just matters that they were a homogeneous society. So everyone was very well integrated and on the same page. Everyone had very similar culture and very similar ideas and mindsets. Number one. Number two, they're relatively small countries. Like the majority of these countries, they don't have the population of big cities. You take a couple of big cities in the United States, and that they're equal to the population of these countries. So relatively small, relatively homogeneous. Everybody's on the same page. But the whole socialist thing is bullshit. Like she just said, they all still had private enterprise. Yes, they have a social safety net system. That is not socialism. Social safety nets. There's something that people vote for. Socialism is the government controlling the means of production. So for you to, they're conflating the two, and that's wrong. It's very disingenuous. They kind of like scam people into thinking, oh, well, look at these countries, like they're really great and they're socialist. No, they're not socialist at all.
Denmark.
But so many American politicians say Denmark is a socialist paradise that Denmark's prime minister felt compelled to reply.
Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy.
So if Scandinavia is not socialist, where has socialism ever worked? Nowhere.
Socialism just doesn't work.
It puzzles me the numbers of young people that are flocking to Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders' message.
It doesn't puzzle me. The great Walter Williams there. That doesn't puzzle me. Why young people flock to socialism? I forget who it was that said it. If you're not socialist when you're younger, you don't have a heart, and if you're not right wing when you're older, then you don't have a head, or it was something to that effect. But it makes sense because, especially now, in my opinion, I think this is probably the greatest time ever that young people will be flocking to socialism, and it's because of the bastardization of capitalism that we currently have. The fact that the crony capitalism has just taken over the system, and these massive corporations have gained such a strong foothold within government that they are just leveraging everybody out of everything. So that I can understand. But when it comes to if you actually have a free market, I don't see how anything can possibly compete with that. It takes the greed that everybody has in their hearts, because we all do, and it uses it in a way that benefits the masses. And that's what everyone needs to understand. Everyone's greedy. Everyone wants for themselves. No one is going to take food out of their starving mouth or out of their children's starving mouth and give it to somebody else that has already been fed. No one is going to do that. So it takes the inherent selfishness that is man and uses it into an amazing system where everyone benefits. The only way that you gain anything in a capitalist system is if you are giving me value that I can pay you for, and I feel that I'm getting the value for the dollars that I'm giving you. It is a free exchange. If I go to a store and I feel like they're overpriced, I'm not buying from the store. It is very simple, very simplistic. And that store owner has an incentive because he wants what I have. He wants my money to price things accordingly and to get things that he believes I want and put them inside of the store. Everything is a very, it's so, I can't even think of the word, but it's a very easy, free flowing idea. It just makes sense. And these people that think that socialism can do anything close to what a free market could do, they just, they're living in their hearts, not in their heads. That's all I can say.
Of giving out free education, free this and free that. I don't know what to say, but I say that it's a characteristic of human beings that we have a tendency to like that the most that does not belong to us, and so politicians exploit that, and I think that there's biblical admonition against that. It says, "Thou shalt not covet that which is thy neighbor's," but we are coveting.
Just think for a moment, if we had a socialist government in charge right now, how do you think it would be going for free expression and free speech? How tolerant would they be of all the people that they label Nazis and bigots? Whatever you may think of Donald Trump and the evil capitalists, are they the ones coming for anyone's speech right now? Are reporters being put in jail? Actually, President Obama used the Espionage Act to put a record number of reporters in jail. And as far as I know, Trump, who dislikes the press, to put it mildly, hasn't put anyone in prison for the crime of journalism.
We would not give the government or the majority or any minority the right to take the life or the property of others. That was...
This is Ayn Rand. If you can, take a look at her. Again, this is kind of like an overall view of all these ideas. Atlas Shrugged, that's like the hallmark of I don't know, libertarian or however you want to. It's many people can call it many different things, but one of her main points was altruism. Was you as an individual, you owe it to yourself to do for you and to be, I don't know if you want to say greedy, or you got to take care of you. And if you are taking care of somebody else, and you're actually bad, it's actually bad. And in a way, if you just look at, we are animals. We are creatures. We are, if you want to say that, if you believe that we're in God's image or whatever, that's one way of thinking it. But if you believe in just a biological sense that we are, if you leave a human being feral, he will still be very animalistic, right? What we have to do to our children is almost, we have to civilize them. If we do not civilize them, they will maintain their feral state. They will eat, they will shit, they will do whatever they need to do to satisfy their basic means. They will not learn how to speak. They will not learn how to write. They will not learn how to create. They will be animals. It is incumbent upon us to teach them and to civilize them. And in part of doing that, one of the things that you will always teach your children is you must take care of yourself. You will help others, but you have to help yourself first. If you are not have the ability, or if you are not as fit as you need to be, or as if you're homeless, how can you help somebody that has a house? You have to build yourself up first. Ayn Rand, one of her key points is, this altruistic person is bad. Like they are not good. They are not doing good for themselves or the society at large. And she's one of the old G's, but give her a listen, give her go through some of her videos. Again, so this particular video that I'm playing right now, this is from Liberty Pen. They are excellent. They really are. Please subscribe to them. They're way bigger than I am. But if you can also subscribe to my channel, that's all I ask people is to subscribe to the channel. But I think Ayn Rand finishes up here.
Was the original American system.
Liberty, freedom, and individual choice must all be sacrificed for the greater good. Though what they're not telling you is that the greater good is usually for the tiny minority in the elite protected class. Their ideas have never worked and will never work because a system built on stripping our humanity is in direct conflict with what it means to be human. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This perfect system which they wish to create can never be perfect because we humans, as flawed as we are part of it. Imperfect beings cannot create a perfect system, but what we can create is a system that always does its best to further the advancement of human freedom. For all its flaws, this is what capitalism is, which is why if you're watching this from a capitalist society, you should consider yourself one of the lucky ones.
Absolutely. That's Dave Rubin, by the way. I liked him a lot more when he was doing this type of thing. I'm okay with his politics still, but he was pretty much hitting my nail with his point that like the freedoms that we are afforded are a product of our system. The socialist system has to tamp down on anything that is against it by default, because you can't once you have you can't have a renegade in the socialist system. It just doesn't work. They have to be squashed.
A traditional American system was a system based on the idea that majority will prevailed only in public or political affairs, and that it was limited by inalienable individual rights. Therefore, I do not believe that a majority can vote a man's life or property or freedom away from him.
Socialism assumes that all the available knowledge can be used by a single central authority. It overlooks that the modern society, which I now prefer to call the extended order, which exceeds the perception of any individual mind, is based on the utilization of widely dispersed knowledge. And once you are aware that we can achieve that great utilization of available resources only because we utilize the knowledge of millions of men, it becomes clear that the assumption of socialism that a central authority can command all this knowledge is just not correct.
Marx's great error, his real mistake, was to imagine that the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, all those railways and dark satanic mills and factories and turbines and in the beginning of electricity, represented the final human achievement in productivity. So in the future, what would matter is not the creation of wealth, but the redistribution of wealth.
Yeah, that is a great point, especially right now when we are barreling down to the AI revolution that is about to happen. I guess if you were a Marxist, or if you were Karl Marx, and you thought that this is the pinnacle of society, then you could say, okay, at this point now, let's break all this stuff up. A lot of people are saying essentially that's what's going to happen in the new AI era that we're about to go through. I've been watching a lot of shows and a lot of people speculating, a lot of very smart people saying that essentially what is going to happen is it actually seems like we're going to get to this socialist thing, whether we like it or not, because labor, work, is essentially just going to be priced out of the market. If you, I'm going to say, if you are using a computer or doing something like this, probably within the next 5 years, that'll all be gone, because it will be just easy to do artificially with AI. And then once robotics, within the next maybe 10 years, it becomes a lot more affordable and a lot more accessible to the everyday man, and especially to the everyday company, that most manual labor jobs within the next 10 to 15 years will also be gone. So a lot of people have speculated that every individual person will have their own little AI bot. And, in the beginning, things will probably be really nice because they'll be very affordable. So, we won't need very much as far as monetary is concerned. But in the end, who the hell knows what's going to happen? But yeah, if going back to the whole Karl Marx point, if there was a finite amount of resources, everything was already established, everything was already done, divvying it up, it still doesn't make sense, but it makes more sense rather than knowing that in the future things were going to just expand exponentially, and things were going to keep growing, and you were going to have all these other industries, and had you implemented those systems at that time, you wouldn't continue expanding because nobody would do the expanding. I guess that's kind of the point. The point is, if you think we've reached the pinnacle and we can't go any further, then yes, stop it here, divide it all up, and then everyone just lives how they live, and then the people will regulate how much of the population is going to be around depending upon what they can provide. A little complex, but you know what? I guess it kind of makes a little bit of sense. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. 6283 Talk on the X. I'm going to hit up the rest of this in the next video that you'll see coming up. If you can please subscribe to the channel, I really greatly appreciate it. I am John Soto. I'll see you again in the next video. Take care, guys.